and I have that in front of me. And I just, without the budget, I don't know how we're supposed to review it. So maybe if someone has a budget, if they could give a copy of it to me, or maybe it would be more prudent to wait until the budget's made, and then we could discuss it then. It just doesn't seem like the reason that the meeting was posted for, we can actually accomplish tonight.
Okay, and we did say a requested budget when Ken and I had posted.
Here's your posting, and it says fiscal year 2017 budget review. So that doesn't say.
And I think because it had been
requested
revised, but it's to talk about the requested budget.
So
But duly
I would just
noted.
say, I feel it's irresponsible of us to
Okay.
discuss this before we have a budget.
Excuse me.
And this seems like a bit of a farce. We're really talking about an imaginary budget right now. I have no problem waiting until later in June or the third week in June or something like that. And then maybe we could reschedule these to the 13th and the 16th. I
Okay.
think that's totally fine,
Okay.
but
Duly noted.
this seems irresponsible and
Okay,
inappropriate.
Duly noted, I have to disagree, and we're going to start forward with the departments that have listed. Mr. Blair? And we're
was
not
ju-
going to go back and forth. This is not
No, I was just
the night. We're
gonna
going
say-
through the budget with the department
Karen,
heads.
we've
And
done this before.
One thing, Peter, is I just ask, please raise your hands and don't talk out of turn, please. Parliamentary procedure. Thank you, Peter.
No, we've done it this way in the past. I think the department heads have an adequate knowledge of what their budget's going to be. They're here to give us their input when the budget comes down and during budget deliberation.
Point of order, if the department heads know what their budget's gonna be, like
The requested-
Mr. Blair just said, why can't we know what their budget's gonna be also?
They know.
I think it's what you said is misunderstood.
Go ahead.
Okay, we're talking the requested, and Stan, may I ask, since you've requested your budget, have you gone back and met with the administration? Have you
We've
guys been going
discussed
back
the
and forth?
recommended.
Okay, the
Don't have the
recommended.
final, what is
Okay.
the results in front of us. But
Okay, so we're gonna-
if, in due respect, you might get a better understanding what we're requesting from the assessors
Right.
department. And then if you got some questions for me, shoot them at me, okay?
Okay.
What we have right tonight is the assessor's budget. You might recall in the case of the assessor's budget, it's down from last year, and the reason being that it's all said and done, it's down about 10%. We level funded it, but what has also happened in it, though, is I changed the entire, there's been retirements inside of the assessor's office, so therefore, the salary line, including whatever might be pay increases or so forth, is down approximately, it shows as 5% down on the overall budget, so that's down. Then, of course, because of the retirement, my longevity amount is down 47% of what I have to give out in longevity. And then if you go down across the board, all our other fees are level funded. And also the only increase that I asked for was in the case of legal services. And I do also know that, I mean, we have a number of legal cases going on at the SJC, at the appeals court and so forth. But we're in line with what our needs have been. The highest I've ever spent in legal fees at one year was $60,000, but I estimated $35,000. But you know, if it comes in at 30, I'm not going to cry about it. In that point, going on down, the only thing that may appear, which is already funded, you could see that I have $138,000 that's sitting in there requested for a reval. So it makes the budget look higher in that one line, but that money has already, 2 months ago, has been funded. So 138 comes off the bottom line. So the total budget for the assessor's department is around 325 as I looked at it very quickly.
Could you give that number again? Thank you.
What the total budget is?
Yep.
The total budget is about 325.
Sorry.
All right,
Yeah.
it's down, overall budget,
Just to remind you, please raise your
taking
hand.
the reval out of there, taking the reval, and you can run those numbers down, Heather, real quick. And if you want to say that it's a certification year, you approved $138,000, so that's already in place.
Can you explain the reval a little bit, please?
every 3 years, we have to do a certification. We have to do, it's driven by the Department of Revenue. We have to go through measure and list and look at every property, what's called drive-bys, and looking at every building permit. The DOR comes in, and they've already been here. We're out in the field looking at neighborhoods, doing a statistical analysis under the Department of Regulations for certification. It's a long, Richard Conti.
Okay. In your legal fees, you said over the past years, you've used up most of the budgeted?
Yeah, I'll give you,
fees?
actually, let me give you a rundown. I also have what we use today.
Okay, thank you. That would be helpful.
Just so you know, the year-to-date is on this form I sent out to you.
Yep, I just want him to go over the legal fees. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, he'll go after. I just want you to go over the legal fees.
Okay, as far as legal fees right now, legal fees, we have available $5,000 of the $30,000 that was out there. We have encumbered $6,000 sitting for a previous case that's sitting out there, but actual years, we still have $5,000 residing inside of there. And we just got another expenditure just today for a case that we're working on that was $1,800. So we're going to come pretty much right at the $30,000 mark.
Okay. Jeremy?
Yes. So what I usually like to do during these meetings every year is go through what you requested and what you're getting. So since we don't know what you're getting, I would like to know what your opinion would be if you were to get a lower number or a higher number and how that might work, because we're kind of dealing with like an imaginary budget right now. So under salary, you're asking for $242,000 and change, which is a decrease. Now, if the budget came back lower than that, what would happen and what would your feelings be?
Well, already in the assessor's office, we're understaffed. If you look at the line items, I'm down 1 employee right at the moment. If we were down on that item, that would mean a loss of personnel. And then that would also mean lack of certification. That would also mean we'd shut the city down. So,
Okay.
it would be hurtful.
So now what if the mayor did the opposite?
And bear in mind, sure, it would be lack of certification within a timely manner, which would mean we would go into preliminary bill, then you would have to do borrowing to support the city.
So then what if the opposite happened and you were given enough money for an extra person? Would that be something you would use, or is that something you would not want? If under salary line item, he gave you an extra, say, $40,000 for an employee, would you be able to use that, or would you not be able to use that?
I'm going to say I'm functioning okay right now, so if you were to give it to me, I'd say
No increase.
I don't want to. If I was down and out, I'd be saying to you, give it to me. All right, I'm not in that position right now. I would be in that position. You've heard me come down before and remind you that I'm down a salary person. I'm down this, but I've done a few things, and I would say right at the moment, I'm running a very efficient office.
So now let's go to professional services. You've requested $6,000. Once again, we have no clue what amount you'll actually get. What would happen if that were $4,000, or what would happen if that were $8,000?
See, that professional services, what that is, a lot of that has to do with software, GIS maintenance. Those are fixed costs that come in there. It would mean if that's down, I wouldn't have a software. A good percentage of that is, there's 2 lines in there for GIS, and you'll see software, and those go hand in hand. Those 2 lines are hand in hand with what we do in the office. So those are contracts.
So, and then if you were, because who knows, if you were given more money, would you be able to have more programs and more efficiently serve the city?
Well, I guess I could think of ways to spend money, but I don't need to do that.
Right? Because we don't know.
I'm not asking for more, though, Jeremy.
So-
I would tell you, if I needed more in those lines, I would put it in there under the contracts. If I knew of a better way, like you might recall, I came down to, in the what I thought was imperative during the capital packages. I came down for a copier, I came down for a printer. I don't know where that ended up being. I don't want to talk about that tonight, but when I think there's a way I can make things far more efficient, I'll ask for it.
Yeah, and I don't want you to take this as saying that you're mismanaging money or anything. It's just because we don't know the budget. I feel like I have to ask everyone.
I would tell you, no, I know where you're coming
Budget
from.
got cut and what would happen if it got increased. I do see that you're decreasing your in-state travel budget, which is that something that you wanted, or is that something that could go down further, or that you think would need to go up more?
Well, theoretically, I use more than that. I do use far more than that because I have to go out and inspect in my own private vehicle. I'm very remiss in putting in what I do for travel miles.
Okay.
Because it's kind of a nuisance to me, you know, I mean, I go out and I drive 18 miles around town inspecting, I gotta write it down, I gotta put it in. It's not worth it to me.
So you'll take whatever
So I'll
the
take
mayor gives
whatever,
you.
yeah. And basically what's in there right now is every time I go up to ATB, I go up there, I get on the train, I got the receipt, I put it in. All
That
right.
is all. Thank you so
How's
much.
their contact? Did I see a hand?
Yes,
Unseen,
have you
unseen.
been, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is moving Attleboro into a 4-year reval schedule. Have you been notified by the DLS what year you're gonna be revaled on?
You mean 5 year?
We're moving to 4 years in time.
Oh, because it's going to a 5-year reval schedule, but they're reorganizing. There's a map. There is a general map. I haven't looked at it yet. And you're looking at the preliminary. It hasn't passed this, at the House yet. It's in the 52 municipal aid package.
We've been notified.
Hasn't passed. The DOR has a map. I can go online and pull it up. I just haven't bothered. I mean, in all due respect, I hope it goes to 5 years because I'll be retired.
Julie?
But no, I know that they haven't changed our schedule, and so it'll be 5 years. I do know this. It'll be 5 years from this year.
So, I don't think that you fully answered Councilor Denley's question about what the $6,000 in professional services are. Where does that $6,000 go? This year you didn't spend any of it.
Because
Yes.
we have not yet paid our software contract. All right, we have not yet paid.
So which line is your, down here I see software.
There's a software contract.
1,500 for software.
Yeah, there's a software contract that's sitting in there. There is if you look at last year, the actual, there is also when the services come in to update GIS, we have a separate line item that we get a service. They come in and change all our maps. We put in the Mass GIS. That's a separate professional service. That is approximately $2,800.
So what is the 6,000?
It's between GIS services, vision software, when we do the, you do a static, you have vision, right?
Yeah, but I see here that you have GIS services, $2,500, mapping services, $8,500, software, $6,575. So I'm confused at what the 6,000.
Yeah, the GIS services, the mapping services, the GIS services, those are, the GIS services is the mapping, the $8,000 is for the mapping itself, for updating all of, we do 2 sets of maps. We do the GIS maps, all right, which are the TIFF files. All of those, there's 2 standard running things in the assessor's office. All the maps, and you see on the counter, that updating. Then, under professional services, there's the maps that are bound, and you see binding in there also, but that binding is relative to the deeds. The binding is for deeds. The professional services go to the binding of there's a different mapping services, the books on the counter, that's a different service.
Can I just add one thing? Also in professional services are the specialty appraisals that you need for strip malls and things like
Right.
that. Is that correct?
But that's
That's
what
correct.
the appraisal line is for, down below at 4,000.
This is for specialty appraisals. The appraisal line,
Why do we have an appraisal line? Why
Okay,
there is it not in
Mr.
appraisals?
Conti, how many times have you gone up to the ATB?
I am scheduled 4 times in June.
How many professional services or specialties going up to the ATB have you paid for?
I've paid $10,000 for 2 firms.
For 2 firms going up to the ATB with you? You did? Okay, so where did that come out of?
That's what I'm asking you, Stan. Where is it coming from? I see an appraisal line here that's $4,000. I want.
That's a professional service when they go to the ATV. They're not giving you an appraisal. Their professional service to be in front of the ATV is a professional service.
Sorry, Madam Chairman, I don't think I'm getting an answer to my question. I relinquish the floor.
Thank you.
Well, before Julie, because I know, I want to, Stan, are you understanding this question?
Well, absolutely, I answered it. I don't think he understands my response. There's a difference between appraisal, getting an appraisal, and asking a professional to appear in front of the ATV.
Yeah, because his question is for
Is
the,
that not correct, Mr. Conti?
okay,
I
Stan,
would put it all under appraisal, Stanley, because it's an appraisal function.
It's a professional service.
It's an appraisal function.
okay.
So
So,
it's 6 of that, 12 of another. I'm not gonna argue about it.
no, that's why he's not going to argue, but
But you
Stan.
are.
Stan, I have a question, because he brought up the 6,000 now. You're saying we haven't paid for it as of yet. Now, we have how many days left in this current budget? Are you going to expend those funds before the next fiscal year? Is that what you're saying? or-
I have a case that may be encumbered in the professional services for a case that's going on right now. And it probably, of that $6,000, I may encumber 4,000 of it.
Okay, so, because that's a good question. Julie?
Yes, so I know you just mentioned this particular thing where you don't know exactly what the actual amount are. Do you have any other expenses that are out there that you aren't quite sure of what the actual amount, that could be a risk or a change, something that we're seeing significantly? Or are all your costs pretty much, you know what they are?
I know what comes at the end of the year I know what comes in at the end of the year. I know what I expended to date.
Okay,
And the only areas that I am running behind in right now is in supplies. Because it's a reval year, we had to get a number of forms, and I've transferred some money from like line items to get those forms.
but other than that, you don't have some
I don't
costs
see a
out-
major problem existing right now.
Okay.
And what's the subscription under supplies?
What is this?
300?
It's 300.
What is that for?
The subscriptions, you mean? Not on the, you mean under the, it's
Under
not on the supplies,
supplies.
it's subscriptions alone.
It says 54 supplies, and then 114-11000-558-110, subscriptions 300. What is that for?
Now, the subscriptions are there for the, there's subscriptions to the newspaper, there's subscriptions to a periodical that we get relative to assessing. Those are the two subscriptions that we have. Okay?
And memberships?
Memberships are memberships to, there's 3 organizations that we're members to. The board is members to the Bristol County Assessors Association. That's a membership fee. There were memberships to the Mass Association of Assessors. We're members to the IAAA, and that's it. And bear in mind, there is 5 memberships out of our office, and the chairman pays a higher price in most of those cases. That's the memberships.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, thank you, Stan. And if we have to call you back, we will let you know either 13th or the 16th if there's any further.
You're okay with, I was
Discussion.
going to give you a list of what we expended to date, but
Oh,
we're
what-
fine.
You have more information?
Without a budget, it's very not helpful. We'll call you back.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Chairwoman, I'd request everyone who would call in before the real budget, we call back in June, because that way we can actually ask them about the budget versus what they want.
We'll take it under advisement.
Inspection. Doug Semple, come on down. Thank you for coming in this evening.
Did I have a choice?
No,
You always have a choice.
you always have a choice. I always said if I had to move people or whatever, so thank you for
No
the
problem.
readjustment. Okay, and what page is the inspection on?
Second page.
Yes.
Jeff, did you print out
I got everything. Always. I got every number there is. And then some.
Okay, so, and to start off, we'll go through your budget, but how are revenues? How were revenues as of to date for the fiscal year 2016? Projected, and then do you have any kind of actuals on revenues?
Oh, I'm sure I do. As of the 12th of this month, we've collected $883,854.60 in fees. We've contributed out of that, because part of that pays for the contracted inspectors that get 65% of the permit fee. We deposited $820,364.12 to the general fund. Total number of permits this year so far, 4,461. Same time last year, 3,698. Processed over 4,800 phone calls,
How many phone calls?
4,800. If you look at the operator's desk over there, there's only one number that isn't there because it's punched so many times, and that's 3251.
Okay, thank you. And before we go through all your budget too, is how many are in your office for personnel? Not just for
I
the
have-
office support staff?
I have 2 full-time clerks.
2 full-time.
I have 2 full-time field inspectors. I have 1 plans examiner. I have 1 electrical inspector. The rest are contracted or alternates that are not in the budget.
Okay, so you have 2 full-time clerks, 2 full-time field,
Field inspectors. They're building,
Inspectors.
we call them, they're local inspectors is what their
Okay.
title is.
and then the plans, what was that one?
Plans examiner.
And that's 1 full-time, part-time?
Yes, full-time.
Full-time, okay. And no, so just the contracted, but no part-time, just the 2 full-time clerks? Okay, so they're fielding the 4,800 calls
Plus
plus? Okay.
plus processing the 4,461 permits, plus dealing with the people at the counter when they come in and ask questions, or attorneys, or other people that want to see folders, or
Okay.
make complaints about somebody's fence falling over, or whatever.
So those permits that you have, people apply for, are they big projects, small projects? Can you group those permits? Are they decks? What are the permits that you're seeing? Larger projects,
When
smaller
I do the
projects?
yearly report, I will do that.
Okay,
My monthly reports, if you read my monthly
Yep.
reports, they break it down in the monthly reports.
Yep.
Houses, multifamily houses, commercial projects.
and I'm just asking so everybody will
Yeah.
know what's going on.
Yeah, we, for the year, we're doing very well with commercial permits, large commercial
Commercial.
projects.
Okay, and our third
for the
member is
year-
now here.
For the year, we're doing very well with single-family homes. And we've had a number of multifamily condos built up on Commerce Way.
Okay. Thank you, I knew
We're having a very good year.
I knew you'd know all those answers, so thank you. Yes, Jeremy.
Yes, President, may ask a question to President Cook.
Are you ready?
As parliamentarian. So my question is, I believe that this meeting is out of order because when it was posted as a fiscal year 2017 budget review, and we do not have a fiscal year 2017 budget to review. And as parliamentarian, I would like your input on whether or not this meeting is in order.
The meeting is in order. This is nothing, what we're doing right now is nothing that different than we have done in past years, including last year.
But we
in terms
posted it
of-
for something different.
In terms of reviewing the budget before we have, meetings with departments, I mentioned that to you on Thursday night. There's
So we
nothing
don't have
different
to
we're doing.
accurately post what will occur during meetings.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that what is currently going on is no different than what we have done in the past, going back several years, back even before you were on the council. Also, this is nothing that unusual in terms of sometimes starting meetings with department heads, going over. You know, this is not like the department heads haven't seen the budget. I mean, part of the budget.
I asked them what the budget was. They said they didn't know.
Part of the budget process is the department, I told you this on Thursday night when we were talking about this also, right? Part of the budgetary process, when the administration is working on it, it gets input, you know, from the department heads. It's not done in a vacuum, as some people in this community have been led to believe, that the mayor sits there and one person develops his budget. That is a very inaccurate statement. The budget is developed by, it is the mayor's budget, ultimately, and yet there's input from the department heads. I know that speaking as, basically it was considered the department head of the city council, that, you know, that there was input that was given up to the administration, you know, through me and through Ken, regarding the budget for, as limited as ours is, but the same. So this is nothing different than what we've done in the past. We've had meetings before we got the formal budget from the mayor. And in terms of the subject heading, I'm sure if I went back and looked at it, this subject heading, with the exception of the date, is what we've used in the past.
I'd just like my objection noted for the record,
Noted.
please.
Okay, thank you. So we'll direct questions back to department heads. Thank you. Councilor Conte?
Yes, Doug, in years past, my memory is that you did not have a full staff, that you were short either an inspector or a planner. I mean, going all the way back to 2007, go back 9 years. There have been many years where you have not had a full staff.
That is correct.
And
In fact, not since 2005 or 6.
that's a very important point, that you haven't had a full staff until this year. So when you
In
look
fact,
at...
we're still missing a secretary. We had 3 clerks back in 2005. When we had the building boom, we hired the 3rd clerk because it was so hectic.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we're there, to be honest with you.
No, I don't think you are either, but here's my point, is that since I've been on the council, you have not had a full staff.
True.
And so your budget has danced around $340,000 for the last, $360,000 for the last 7, 8, 9 years.
Yeah, if you look at it, it's
Right.
gone up a little with the
Down a little
wage
bit,
increases,
right
and then
about-
it goes down a little, and then, yeah.
And then last year, when we started to fully staff, because there was an increase in the activity, it rose to 410. This year it's rising to 447
Right.
because you're finally fully staffed.
Correct, we hired that full-time local inspector.
Yeah.
That is correct.
So, I just think that that's an important fact that the council needs to understand, that while your 467 number is substantially higher than last year, it's because you finally have a full department.
Yes, and actually, not only does a lot of that have to do with that person's salary, it also has to do with memberships to Symboa, that he has to maintain his CEUs with,
Continuing education.
classes that he has to take, the 3 exams that he has to take that we have to pay for, so there are other costs
There's
that come along
associated
with that.
Right.
Yes.
And those are down in the budget
Yes.
under memberships, license fees, professional liability,
Staff development,
staff development.
if you notice staff development went up. And that went up significantly, and that's to pay for those $350
But
exams.
your entire budget, all the line items are minuscule, with the exception of salary.
Yeah, pretty much,
Right,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you. So, the way I look at your budget, and we had a small conversation about it, you're booming. And we're talking, you're extraordinarily busy, you're down a clerk, and all sorts of things. And I know that we're all looking for ways to cost save, but your department is not one that I would go in and blow up, because you're bringing in more than enough money to support your salary lines and what is necessary. I was just curious, I'm looking at your overtime budget. We've had to make some transfers over the course of the last year.
Yep.
So,
And I will say, some of that is due to the fact that I was out for a while. And some of that overtime is reduced because I respond to calls, and because I'm on salary, I don't get overtime.
okay,
But because that time I was out was during that time where we had storms and
sure.
stuff happened, that we had to pay overtime, and we had to transfer money into that account to cover that overtime.
Thank you, because I was curious, because it isn't anything, granted, it's only my third budget go-around,
Yep.
but I hadn't recalled in previous years that there was so much transferring for overtime for that, so
Right,
I
because
appreciate.
I was going out and
And so
doing
thank
that.
you for going above and beyond, I appreciate that.
And I hope you're feeling better. I know we had a
I feel
conversation
great.
on the phone, and you're feeling much better, and I'm glad to
Three in
see
the
you're
spine and I'm
back.
feeling fine. That's my new saying.
Julie?
You had mentioned, Doug, about contracted services.
Yes.
And that isn't part of your budget, so where does those
Well,
where's that?
When I say it's not part of my budget, it's not the budget here you see, it's the budget you see in the revolving accounts that you approved. I have a 65% revolving account, that's 65% of the fee for the permits for gas and plumbing come in and they go into that revolving account. 35% of that fee goes into the general fund deposit.
Okay.
That revolving account, you allow me 65,000. I think the top number is 65,000 now, because the mechanical went back to the building official. We used to have a mechanical inspector that got 65% of that fee. So we dropped it down to 65,000. I think the total of the revolving account is. So when those fees come in, then we pay that inspector. That's how that contracted inspector gets
So
paid.
sitting, yeah.
There are also alternates. When that contracted inspector does work in the city, which they're allowed to do, we have to hire an alternate inspector to inspect that work. That comes out of that revolving account also. In the case of someone getting called out, and it's an alternate inspector, we pay them through the professional services account. That's where that professional services comes in. Also, when Paul is on vacation, which his vacation's coming up next week, either next week or the week after, we have to pay an electrical inspector out of the professional services. It's either Randy Vincent or Laban O'Brien. If they're not available, I turn to Paul LaFratter in North Attleboro, but we pay them out of that professional services account. That's where that money comes from and goes.
Yes.
So Doug, I'm going to do the same thing because we're kind of working on a pretend budget. I'm going to kind of go to a couple line items and ask you, what if the actual budget's cut? What if the actual budget's increased? Kind of what would happen? So let's go to salary.
In all respect, Jeremy, I'm not going to speculate. I don't want to.
It's difficult, right?
Please respect me and
I respect the
understand that I-
uncomfortable situation that we're in, and I
Yeah,
will not go
it's-
further.
I just don't wanna
appreciate that.
speculate.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. And what number budget is this for you?
Keep in mind, this
In
is
front
my
of the
20th year.
20th year in
It's
front
my
of us.
final year, and the next person up to you, it's their first year. So you've got somebody in their last year and somebody in their first year, so please take it easy on her.
Yeah, one more from Heather.
Sure.
And I'm showing that your memberships are going down a bit. Is there a particular reason?
Hang on.
So your revised in 2016 was 710, the actual went to 565, and we're requesting,
Oh, the reason it went up to 710 was Paul had a new membership in an organization that he had to do, that we had to transfer money, the electrical inspector. He doesn't need that for this coming year,
okay,
because it covered 2 years.
2 years. Okay, thank you.
And it did go up a little bit beyond that, and that's only because of Mark's new membership to Symboa.
Got it. Thank you.
Do you have any outstanding costs that you might be aware of that are sitting out there where you're not, that you might be a surprise if they come in? Or do you feel pretty confident that everything that's out there right now, you're gonna be able to, you have a pretty good idea of what it's gonna come in at?
I'm pretty comfortable with everything just the way it is right now.
Thank you.
I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Yep.
Good night.
Thank you. Our newly elected treasurer, Laura Dicknack. Come on down. Thank you.
Hey, Laura.
This is Laura's first
My first
budget
budget.
hearing.
Yes.
And how's everything going so far in the office?
Very good, thank you.
And just to start off, before we get through your budget, what page is the treasurer, so everyone knows? Please.
It's probably the third page in, fourth page in.
Fourth page.
Okay. Before we go through your whole budget, can I ask about the staff that you have in your office? How many full-time, part-time?
I have 3 full-time and 1 part-time. I have a full-time assistant treasurer, a full-time payroll supervisor, a full-time clerk, and a part-time clerk.
Okay, and based on the schedule, is it Monday to Friday? What hours are the full-times, part-times? Is it Monday to Friday, certain hours?
Yeah, full-time's Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. Part-time, it's usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, for the part-timer.
Okay.
It's 20 hours a week.
Okay, so just to go through the salary, it's down 3.6%?
That's correct. The reason why that is down 3.6% is because Ethel retired and she was at the top of the pay scale, and bringing me in, I am not at the top of the pay scale.
Okay. Let's see, the overtime down 69.2%?
Yeah, I put in for overtime. Obviously, last year there was a lot of changeover going on, a lot of learning, so we had to put in for extra overtime. People had to work extra for W-2s, 1099s. We expect that we will have some overtime this year, but it is down from what we had.
Okay, and that's overtime for the office staff?
Correct.
Okay, because you don't get the overtime,
That is
correct?
correct.
Okay, so your longevities are down because Ethel retired, correct? Is there any other reason?
She does not get longevity because she was elected.
The treasurer? Okay.
So she doesn't get a longevity payment. So it's just who has the longevity payment coming out this time.
Okay. Okay, do you want to continue, keep going down?
Sure.
Thank you.
Medicare, you'll notice that it is up 1.03%, and that's for the cost of living. So that would be adding that to it for the cost of living. Professional services, it's the same as it was last year. Professional services is all the title work that's done with all the legal fees that we have to pay for tax, title, redemptions, foreclosures. So that's to pay the attorney. Banking services, it's pretty self-explanatory. That's any banking fees that we would incur. That is the same. I put it in the same as last year. Recording, same thing, 15,000, same as last year. And that is for the same thing, recording redemptions, going over to the registry of deeds, people paying things off when we've liened on them. So that's a pretty standard fee. The PRTG reporting is advices, so those are direct deposit forms that we use, that we have to give out to everyone every week, have direct deposits. That's something that we need to keep within the budget. Staff development, you will see that has increased, and the reason I've increased that is because of schooling. Both myself and Heather are brand new. We go to Mass Treasurers, Collectors and Treasurers School. I think that's very important to keep in the budget. Being new, it's paramount that we get the education that we need to make sure things function properly in the office. Advertisements, that's for tailings. Tailings, if you don't know what tailings are, they are old checks that have not been cashed. We are required to advertise those in the newspaper. Office supplies stayed the same. Data procedure is the 89 and 10 forms, which we need to, those are for deposits. All the departments use those. Memberships, that's for both Heather and I, for the Mass Collectors and Treasurers. So we kind of need to be a part of that. Updates come through there. Lots of information comes from that. In bonding, the increase is because it's both for me and Heather, and we are required to be bonded.
Correct. And you have no in-state or out-of-state travel?
No.
Okay, I'll open it up for the floor.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Gignac.
you.
So like I said before, usually we say, so you requested $253,000 for salary. The budget that's brought down is X. And then I ask, what do you think about that? But we're not in that position tonight. So I was wondering what would happen if the salary came in kind of significantly less, and then what would happen if the salary came in significantly greater? How would those two things affect your office?
Obviously, if it came in significantly less, that means we would lose someone. I would hate to see that in the office because we are a great group of people working together. We are always busy, so I would obviously hate to see that. That would mean we'd increase by a person. I don't feel that that's something that's necessary. You do need to remember that I've only been here 6 months. Well, it will be 6 months coming up. So I'm giving you my best estimation based on how long I've been here.
No, that's perfect. And then for purchase of services is your only real increase this year, 9%. So once again, I don't know what's happening, but maybe that could be cut. What would happen if that was cut? What would happen if that was increased?
I apologize. What was the category?
The total purchase of services.
Total purchase.
So that includes professional services and banking services and recordings and staff development and advertising.
Yeah. Okay. So that obviously is being increased because of staff development. That is something, there is a school that we have to go to. It's a 3-day school to get certified. You have to go for 3 years to be certified for both Heather and I. That is very important to be certified. It can help us in a lot of different areas, especially when it comes up to bonding, ratings, things of that nature. That is very important to have. There's also conferences that give out new information. That is something that we need to go to. This is something we have to stay informed and stay on top of things. Things change all the time, and I think that's important. And obviously on advertisements for tailings, that is something we're required to do. I can't really take that out and not do it.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Julie?
Yeah, it's an interesting question that Councilor Denlea asks in terms of an increase in personnel. I mean, oftentimes you have to put money into some efficiency, and it would be interesting for someone to think in terms of if it did increase, whether you would feel that there is some efficiency that could be gained in doing that. So I'm just kind of throwing that out. I think that's a great question to ask, and I think people are sort of trying to say, well, we want to stay at this budget, and I understand why, but oftentimes there, you got to make, put money in to make money, and efficiency sometimes can be gained if you have a little bit of an extra person. So just something to think about. Okay, it's not a negative thing. Just want to say that. And also the same question: is there anything out there that you know about, or I know at the as time comes in, there's stuff out there, and you say, I just don't know what the cost of that's going to be. Is there anything sitting out there that's a risk cost for you?
I can see additional banking fees coming in, so you'll see that there's money left in this year's budget for that. As far as recordings go, I don't foresee anymore, but it's a very hard thing to say if we're going to have anything else at this point in time. So
okay, so you could have in your particular department more than the others some risk costs that you think that could affect this budget up a little bit.
I don't think it will go over the budget though that I have currently.
Okay, thank you.
Heather?
Just a small amount of clarification for the memberships. That's so that you and Heather are
correct. Go to Mass Collect.
Okay, so those are some of the ancillary costs.
That is the fee for both of us
Yep.
to.
Great.
Super important.
Super
Yes.
important. I'm happy. I like that.
Thank you.
And that's why we have the assistant treasurer's position, which has newly been created, because if you're not there, we've had issues even this past year, that if the treasurer's not there, we need an assistant treasurer because you're bonded.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I
Any
think that
questions?
if I could just finish up with that, I think, again, those are some of the, when we were making those decisions, whether to add the assistant treasurer, we were all on board, but I think we kind of really focused on the salary implications versus anything else. And so it's interesting to just see how these are kind of getting pulled out for what some of the other costs for that. Well worth it, but interesting to me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Yes, Frank.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Laura, thank you for coming down. On the banking services, and the amount of money that you're requesting, comparison with your actual of 2016, it's just kind of like based on what you've seen so far, where you expect that it will be?
I expect there'll be additional fees that will come out the remainder of this month and into June that could bring me very close to that number.
Okay, so if that item was eliminated, then in that situation, what would you be doing?
At that point in time, I wouldn't have it in my budget, so I'd have to be requesting money to pay for those fees.
Okay, all right, good, thank you.
Jay?
Thank you. I guess my question is, I don't know, I'm a little confused by the question around the banking services. We need the banking services. The conversation around cutting total purchase of services. there are certain things that I don't know that we can cut, because this whole purchase of services piece is the primary function of what you do in that office. Bank fees are high, and I get that. Believe me, I get that. But the banking needs of a municipality are much different than ours, as we're balancing our own checkbooks. So they're gonna be a little more complex and convoluted. As far as the whole staff development goes, it's interesting to note that in most communities where a treasurer isn't elected, in order to get those positions, they need that, those licensing and the schooling anyway. So I just think that that whole line item, purchase of services, is essential to what we do.
Okay, and that's noted, and we are here and we all ask questions, no matter what everyone's questions are, and we also have to know from an informative point of view, sitting here, to ask you questions. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're done with your first one.
Thank you very much. Wasn't that bad either.
Well, working in a bank, right? Okay, next we have, personnel. Owen, do you wanna come on down, or did you want, you can come too. No?
Hello.
Thank you, and for everybody's purposes, what page is the?
Following page,
The very next
5?
page.
The last one?
following page.
Personnel. Okay, thank you for coming down, and just as I've kind of gone through, before we go through the budget, can you just tell me, your office staff?
Sure. I have 3 clerks, a benefits administrator, and a personnel assistant. You'll see, and I'll explain the increase in the budget for you that you see in front of you. During the course of the year, actually, I guess it was actually the start prior to the beginning of this fiscal year, we had a long-term vacancy due to a long-term illness. And then during the course of the year, there was an additional long-term vacancy due to a long-term illness, and those 2 positions were filled, and this is another department, filled by a temp position. I'm happy to say that the long-term illnesses healed, and they came back. And so what happened was, now the temporary person we had bumped up to a full-time position, because we didn't know about the other ones who may or may not have come back. So we had the 2 come back, and so I absorbed one of the positions at the end of this fiscal year, knowing that in advance, I got word that one of my staff is going to retire in the next few months. So I took in a person, one of the extra clerks. So one of the people in my staff is training to take over that position. So when that person retires, we won't be backfilling
Okay.
that spot.
That would have been my next
That's why there's a little
question.
bit. That's why there's a little bit extra, because there's going to be a.
So instead, you're putting another person in that position instead of backfilling, so then that salary will have a fluctuation, but there won't be any benefits or anything else associated with that position. So you'll be down, but not backfilling.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we can keep going through.
Sure. Longevity will reflect the people in the department because of that extra position. You see the earned time, that's the payout for the retirement of the person who's going to be leaving.
Okay.
So that's that earned time. Bulk of the lines beneath it, as you know, are the health coverage. So based on anticipated, when we filled this out in March, we had to anticipate open enrollment figures and increases that we anticipate for the upcoming year, or decreases. Mostly, of course, would be increases. And those reflect in those lines. The Blue Care Elect is the most expensive plan that we have, so that bump goes up a little bit more than the HMO line, which is the most popular plan, but not as expensive.
Okay, because just to stop, because it says 943% increase, is that, am I reading that correct?
That's the earned time.
For the earned?
That they had to
okay.
pay out.
Am I on the wrong
Yeah.
line? Okay, for the
Yeah.
earned time, okay,
That's
thank
for
you.
retirement.
Okay, I'm not lined up correctly, thank you, because that one kind of went, whoa!
That's a big increase, yeah.
Okay, am I reading that right? Okay, keep going, thanks.
So those lines that you see beneath that reflect that. Want to just point out that let's see, the HMO Premium Senior Managed Care and the HMO Insurance MedX, that's included in there. those retirement plans, like the Medics plan especially, and the PDP Blue Medics prescription plan is part of that. That number, those rates change the first of the year on a calendar basis. These other rates change the first of the fiscal year. So that, we kind of have to anticipate what that rate would be, and we're being told that the prescription pieces could be very expensive upcoming for that piece. So, but we don't know what that number is because we're still over 6 months out. So they're trying to give us a heads up as to what's happening.
Yes, Julie, and then Richard.
So if you wanted to balance that out, and you know that it's going up in the medical side, the only way to balance that out would be to renegotiate the cost pays and the enrollment fees. So the premiums would have to go up and the copay may have to go up. Is that correct?
Right.
How would you go about doing that if you see that this is rising too high? I'm just asking a rhetorical
Sure.
question.
Well, do you understand that any of those kind of co-pays, they're in each bargaining agreement contract, each CBA, and we're upcoming the next year is the last year of the current contract. We'd have to negotiate that during that time period.
And, yeah, I mean, because that's really the only way you're gonna.
Yeah, to address those issues, you'd have to address that at that time.
Gotcha.
And
Thank
just so everyone knows, Julie does have a background in hospitals, health.
Okay.
So she does have. So she is knowledgeable on.
We had a very busy year. This is the first year of Affordable Care Act information. I think a lot of you received our 1095s, which we had to produce. It took a number of months to produce that. It was never done by anyone. We got those out earlier than anticipated, which was great. And we still have to transmit that information to the IRS along with the 1094 form, which we're trying to produce now. So those are new things that have to happen in the department that everyone's coming across. So there's no historical information. So it's kind of,
Is there a cost? What was the increased cost to that?
there was a lot of time, I would say more time, effort. A lot of people had to put more time into it and take away from other information.
Okay.
The physical aspects, I think ordering forms and things like that, working with Munis, because they had to install an upgrade to our system, but that was required, because they had to produce that information.
And which line item?
That wasn't any about my
Because that was
items.
in-
Yeah, it's
okay.
mostly time effort for us, but it was you couldn't rely on anyone or historical information because there wasn't any. So you just had to rely on information. In fact, the IRS stopped taking phone calls in October. So to ask them information, you couldn't get it. They refer to you their frequently asked questions page. There wasn't a lot of help from the federal government after a while. So that was kind of, that set us back. The extra person in the office did kind of help at that time.
Okay. And Richard?
No, Council Hall asked my question.
Oh, great. Okay.
Past those healthcare items, and as you know, the rest is workers' comp. Again, that's claims anticipated. There's nothing that, we'd have to anticipate a major claim coming up. We just don't know that. There's nothing on the horizon, I would think, for the next fiscal year. We're settling some claims for this current year, which we want to do to clean that up. If we clean those up this fiscal year, which I'm anticipating we will, there's nothing on the horizon at the DIA, Division of Industrial Accidents, that's pending, which is good. So that portion, that's why we're keeping these line items the same. And the rest of the lines are just, are carried over from last year. I didn't anticipate any additional increases.
Okay, and let's see. Is it DRG ALCTS?
That's drug
It's drug and
alcohol.
alcohol.
Drug and alcohol testing. That's citywide and police.
Okay.
That police fee was included last fiscal year.
Good, and
in
that
this
was a
line.
change in the
Yeah,
contractual.
contractual change.
Okay, so that was then put on your
Correct, it's in our budget.
budget for the testing.
Right.
Okay. And what's the employee assist?
EAP program, it's a standard program, employee assistance program. People who need counseling, people who have personal problems, they don't have to come to me. They can go right to an independent firm to talk about things like that. If we have issues,
Confidentiality.
we can have counseling for groups if we need to.
Okay. And the last one is reproduction, is that?
Printing and reproduction, I
Printing
mean,
and
like forms we have to produce, like for the open enrollment primarily. Some
Okay.
1095 issues we took out of there.
And the med hoist,
Hoist and licensing, that comes out of our office.
oh, that also comes out of your,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, Richard, and then Heather?
Oh, and have you been notified by Blue Elect that it's going up 40% next year?
It's not a straight 40% like this would be plug in, because we anticipated people adding to it coming on the plan. So we'd have to anticipate those coming on the plan plus the percentage increase.
Have you been notified that HMO is
Yeah,
going up 13%?
all those would be are gonna go up a percentage.
But you've been notified that it's going to
Yes.
be 13%?
No, it's not a 13%. We're anticipating more people on that program. For instance, we've had retirees this year, so we still carry them, and we hire new people, so we're not adding new people to the program. So overall, I don't know the number, I'm just trying to anticipate like the numbers.
Are
So
retirees mandated to go on to Medicare?
if they're at 65,
Yeah,
but if they're not, they're still on this plan.
yeah.
So until they hit 65, then they go on Medicare, then they go on a MedX package.
So what portion of this 40% and 13% is anticipated new subscribers versus rate increase?
Well, roughly the overall rate is going to be like a 4.2% increase rate. I anticipated, I don't have the number in front of me, because we did this before the open enrollment, but I anticipated more adding to that plan. So I'm trying to be conservative and not fall short in that number.
So you forecasted 8% increase in subscribers in the HMO plan and 36% increase in Blue?
Only because that number is cost more. So if you add one to the HMO, it doesn't cost as much as the Blue Care Elect. So that's why the number jumps up higher. So it's not a one-for-one increase.
And this is based on the growth of the number of employees in the city?
We had more this year because we had retirees, so we had to bring in more people. We just had some more hires this year. Plus, too, some people switch from a single plan to family plan.
So if a person retires and gets replaced by a person, we were insuring them, and we're insuring a new person, that's a one-on-one swap.
It's still in here, though. It's not a wash. You're adding another plan.
Because a retiree takes this plan with them when they retire, if they're not 65 years old.
Right. They stay with that plan, so it's not I know what you're saying, it doesn't go away.
No, 40% jump is just, it's $400,000.
Right.
It's a lot of money.
Yes. I mean, it could be cut. It could very well be cut, but I'm just trying to be conservative in my
That was
estimations.
that was a projection made before open enrollment was ended, and that projection included just a number of anticipated new hires to replace retiring employees, so.
Okay, so these two numbers are not real.
Well, they're based on projections, again. A lot of what budgeting is projecting.
Right.
Projecting out.
And I got all that, Mary, I
Okay.
got all that. When you get to the end of May, you're gonna have more solid numbers?
That's correct,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you. Heather, Frank, and then Julie.
Thank you. Oh, and if we could just go back to the workers' comp and police and fire. This is an area where I think it would be, so I'm just looking at the 2015 actual, the original, the revised, the actual, and we never really know, but we never know, like,
Right.
Unemployment number, like, if we have to lay anybody off, if someone goes out on workers' comp or anything like that. So where I'm looking previously, so like the actual 2015 for workers' comp ended up at 182. We're only budgeting 100,000
Right.
for that. The actual for 2016 is 107. So this is like an instance where having like a a recommended budget might help a little bit for us. Can you just give me a little bit more information on that so that I can feel a little more, because I'm looking at this and says we're
Yeah.
going down 35%, but that might not be actually true.
Well, we do have the flexibility to transfer from some of the healthcare lines to that if we have the room and the flexibility. And as you know, I mean, if people stay healthy, if they're not getting hurt, then that will save money.
Right.
We can't. There's some things that happened this year we could not have anticipated. Unfortunately, I mean, it would, and they were unavoidable too. That's another question we'd have to ask: is there something that we could look at to try to avoid that situation? And in some situations,
Right.
it was not avoidable.
Well, that's
So-
why, if I may follow up, that's why I'm just curious if having the requested for 2017 be the same as the projected for 2016, where we've already blown that already out of the water. If that should be something that would be adjusted.
There were some cases this year that really were, like I said, they weren't anticipated, and they were very expensive cases. That's what happened to us, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I know, because even, we do like to budget amounts and not have to make transfers later.
Oh, sure. Oh, I agree. That'd be nice.
Okay, I know in reality,
Yeah.
but I.
Well, do you know what
I
you know what I'm trying to say is that like
I do.
okay, we're looking at 45 grand,
That's
but
why
the
I made
chances
that
are it's going to be
comment, 'cause I do
double. So
understand.
thank you.
Because I do look, we all do, look at transfers and what's budgeted, and
Sure.
we want to make sure you have enough in the budgeted. We also are looking not to have a really steep.
Right. It goes both ways. You know, we want to make sure that you
Correct.
have what you need to operate
Yeah.
with, but
Yeah.
And Frank?
Thank you. Thank you. Just a couple things. One, on the workman's comp. So your revised budget for a year ago was 125,000, and you spent 107. All right. So usually when you're making your projection for the coming year, you're basing it on past experience, correct? And then, and again, I realize that, I mean, we could have something tragic happen, in which case that number could be, twice as much as 100,000, whatever. Bottom line is that you're kind of projecting it based on past experience.
You try to, but then there's those unanticipated claims you can't budget for. In some
Right.
cases, might not be. You could budget for something not even be close to having what you need,
Okay.
because of the nature of this, how this is funded.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm trying to find that happy medium, which is difficult.
Right.
Okay, so then I said,
And then the second thing, could you speak to the unemployment line where it's 15,000? Again, it's a projection of 15,000, similar to what was requested in 2016. So in that respect, it's kind of level funded, but
Well, the last couple of years, we really didn't need that much more,
right.
so we didn't need that request that
Okay.
anymore.
But if they're in terms of, I mean, can you anticipate what type of events would cause that number to increase, so that the 15,000 might not even be enough?
If you had layoffs, you'd have to increase that line.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
so per the departments, if there was any type of layoffs, that would then fall onto that in your department?
Unemployment would be
the
that line.
unemployment?
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And then we would, I have to make adjustments going
Correct.
forward. Okay, and then I think I said Julie, Richard, Heather.
thank you.
Yes, so I would consider your budget to be a very high-risk contingency budget.
Oh, yes.
If I can say that correctly. Very high-risk contingency, because the numbers that you're talking about in people's salaries are pretty significant. So that's the first thing, and maybe, and I like the question that Councilor Conti asked in terms of when you get your actuals, that would be very interesting to see that. And this, Madam Chair, is one of the budgets in particular, I think as we go into the next year, is something that should probably be reported on certain times, like after enrollments and things like that, when there's significant things that happen, that might be something we'd want to look at because it's so large and because it's so contingent.
Sure.
And
We might have to
contentious.
call you in
All
during
those
the
things.
committee during the year. Actually, that's a good, that hasn't really been brought up, for the personnel to come in. We might have to have some updates for you, like as she said, as Richard.
Don't
Yep.
need to make extra work, but I think it's just one of those things, the more people understand what's going on, this makes so much more sense, and it's such a huge number. The other second, and is, can you tell me again, I apologize, when the healthcare contract comes back up for reevaluation?
Not the contract, with the contract, but those changes are the
When you can
it would be the next,
renegotiate.
the next
Sorry.
year, next fiscal year is the last year of our current collective bargaining agreement.
Okay, thank you.
And just so you know, all of the city's unions are on the same collective bargaining cycle.
Okay.
So they all, this coming year is the last year for all of the collective bargaining agreements.
Okay, great, good to know. Thank you very much.
Owen, time passes so fast. I know you're new, but I don't know how long you've been here.
Just a little over a year.
A little over a year, good. So my question is, during this last fiscal year, did the city of Attleboro lay off any personnel?
It's the last year. Layoffs? No.
No, so this $4,433 is kind of a carryover from layoffs of the prior year, before you came here.
Just so you know, unemployment is triggered not just by layoffs.
No.
It's triggered by dismissals where somebody appeals to the unemployment board. So
Yes.
it's not just layoffs.
It's not just layoffs.
Okay,
It goes beyond that.
so the mayor, when he sits down with you to do his final budget to present to us, is gonna trim that $15,000 by a substantial amount. I'm
Could be a
quite
lot of
sure,
trimming, I don't know.
because you and he know who we've dismissed, and you and he know what our real cost is going to be. It's not gonna be
There are
15,000.
some cases where, I'll give you an example, crossing guards. They file for unemployment.
I know, they make more money than city councilors.
So, you know, it's not a layoff, it's, you know, so that's factors into that.
Yeah,
They're seasonal.
See,
it's kinda like bus drivers.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, and on that line, because we also could make a cut on that line too, going forward. Do you know of any cases or anything currently going on?
no. Cases going on that are,
Well, as you just said, it's not just laying people off. There's
well, no,
other
we get claims
variables.
from people who, like,
Claims.
during the case, like, if there's someone's on a, let me think, like, again, the crossing guard example, if they take the April vacation, some actually file for unemployment. So we might get that, we
Can you
might,
explain that?
if they're out for a week, okay, for the spring break, they actually, some, not all, some will file for unemployment for the week.
I can, if you.
Yeah, they
yes,
raise
I
my
can-
eyebrows too.
I can, if you'd like, I could, because they're.
I don't need any
classified-
more
Right.
explanation, but you had a question?
I do. They are classified as seasonal workers,
Right.
so they're allowed to
Yeah.
do that under master
So they
law.
can do that. So
So
that's what
just because everybody knows all budget stuff, where everyone's very, I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions that'll be extraordinarily helpful as we move.
Okay.
So, does the school department have their own personnel department that handles layoffs, or does that come through you as well?
They do their own.
They do their own. So their unemployment, things like that are paid through the school budget.
That's out of their line, except the health coverage is out of this.
Health coverage for teachers?
Oh, I'm sorry, they have their health coverage line, we administer it, I should say. We administer the health coverage, they pay in their budget.
Out of that to the city? Is that how, like, could you explain that just a
They
little
have
bit for me?
in their budget, they have a health line, like we have here,
Yep.
so they'll pay for the health coverage with them.
And you administer?
We do the paperwork administration.
Okay, so then, in the event that there's, layoffs, that wouldn't affect the unemployment line on the city side?
It's my understanding it's in their budget.
Okay, thank you very much. They're clearly not sitting in front of me to ask that question. I would have asked them that, but I think that's a good question to understand, just as we're looking at this today, so thank you.
Did I see another, and I already called on Julie, I just want to make sure the order, everyone, so Richard.
So Barry, we charge back to the water and wastewater department for work that we do for them because they're an enterprise account.
The indirect rate, correct.
We don't charge interdepartmentally for work that we share. Like, for example, the example he just explained, that he administers the health, which is huge. I mean, there's 750 teachers. That's a lot of work in his department, of which he does not receive compensation from the school department. He's basically paid, all that's coming out of city money. Correct? Am I correct?
Oh, yes, I'm just waiting
Okay.
for a question.
No, it was just for clarification. I wanted to make sure that I had a correct
Yes.
understanding that the personnel department is taking on a considerable burden for the school department
That's
to
correct.
administer their health.
That is correct, but there's also, as part of the net school spending calculation, there's an administrative fee that's based upon enrollment as well.
So that gets factored into the net school spending?
That's absolutely correct.
Excellent, okay, that's where I was going. Thank you.
That's why I wanted you to clarify. And the school will be here, the education, I believe on the 13th. So if there's school questions too, they'll be here, I believe, on the 13th. I'm just waiting for confirmation. Any other questions?
Sure. Thank you for coming in, Howard. I think you've done a great job over the last year and a half.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Owen, look at that. Look at that. I'm horrible.
Howard.
Because same last
Can't think
name.
of
I
Howard.
different. Same
Looks like a
last
Howard.
All right.
That's a new one. Okay.
Good, a little lighthearted.
I'm sorry.
Good, there we go. No, I have my apologies. I should drop in your office more now, shouldn't I?
Sure.
All right. So I just want to go through the same practice on your two main items, which are your total personnel services and your total purchase of services. Normally, I'm able to say, hey, here's what you're asking for. Hey, here's what you're getting. How do you feel about that? Don't have that opportunity this year. So my question would be, if the budget came down, I don't know what it is. I don't think you know either. If the personnel services were decreased or increased by a great amount, how would either of those affect you? And if it was just funded exactly as you requested, how would that affect you?
Well, because of the ACA requirements, we did a lot more extra office work, a lot of digging. If we are cut, then, got to figure a way to get it done. That's the way it is.
Now, if you get
that's a required.
If you get more money, would that give you some opportunity to
Anybody with more
be more
staff obviously
efficient?
could handle it a
Okay.
little bit easier.
And then purchase of services is just level funded. So I anticipate that you anticipate that when we eventually receive the budget, it might possibly say that it will also be level funded.
Right.
And that would be fine with you?
I can get
Yes.
by with that. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks.
Julie?
One more question, I'm sorry, because I don't want to lose this. When we go further through the municipal administrative offices, I want to try to remember, if you step down any of your services cost to the other departments, do you step down? In other words, what I mean is, what was just asked, and thank you, Councilor Conti, was do any of your services get stepped down to the school, like a percentage of your time, effort, and that has to be quantified monetarily. So that's what I'm going to be looking for and asking that question, if that makes sense.
Sure, I understand.
So your time and labor and salary gets expended to these other departments. So that's got to be quantified to those other departments. So there should be a cost of doing business to these other departments to have your services if you're managing all of this for them.
Right. So there are three main departments that sort of factor that in, I think, where you're going with this. Two of them are the enterprises, water and wastewater.
Okay.
So Owen and his personnel's time is factored into the indirect rate, which the water and wastewater department pay over to the general fund for things like you're talking about. The third department is the school department, which I mentioned earlier, is factored into an administrative deduct from the net school spending, and that's based on enrollment. And that's based upon a number that's given to us by the Department of Secondary Education.
Thank you
You're welcome.
very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Thank you, Owen. I stop by your office all the time, so Owen.
My bad, I do apologize. Blame where it's deserved.
We could all tease each other. Thank you. And last, the collector. And
That's okay. That's
Deb, thank you for, I know Stan had asked you to switch. I did have you first. Not a problem. So thank you.
Not a problem.
For
Anything to
switching.
help.
So thank you very much. Okay, and just so everybody's aware, what page are we on? First?
First page, yep.
Okay, so first of all, I've asked this question for everybody. You yourself, as we know, are elected official, you don't get overtime, correct?
Correct.
And can you tell me full-time, part-time staff in your office?
I have a full-time assistant collector. I have a full-time administrative clerk. I have 2 full-time administrative clerks and 1 part-time administrative clerk. Not administrative, I'm sorry, account clerk, and 2 account clerks that are full-time.
Okay, and as we get into the budget, I know we recently have, what do I want to call it, outsourcing certain of the billings, the payments. Can you tell me, have you seen same amount of monies that, not monies, but residents paying through that service, coming to the window online?
Yes.
In your head, can you kind of give me a little idea?
We have several people that use the lockbox service, which we provide envelopes in their envelopes in the tax bills, in the utility bills, and Kelly and Ryan for the state deputy collector for excise tax has supplied a window envelope in which it says the city of Attleboro and the Boston address for mailing. So we do have a lot of our mail that is going through there. We still have a lot of residents that use their online banking system where the checks have been changed and they go to the post office box in Boston. We still have a lot of them that have not been changed and they're still being mailed to the post office box in downtown Attleboro that are obviously being picked up by us. And we still have some that are addressed to 77 Park Street. We still get a lot of mail that's addressed directly to 77 Park Street. A lot of the mail that we get comes from attorneys that are doing the closings, and they use the 77 Park Street address, which is good because they don't have stubs. So anything that goes to the lockbox service that does not have a stub and a check, and it's just a check format, goes into what we call customer decision-making module, and this customer decision-making module has 2 steps. Top half of it would be just checks only, and the bottom half of it will be checks that were received with a stub but they don't match. And if something doesn't match, then we have put it into the system that we want to know what it is. We want to be able to look at it. We want to be able to make the decision as to where we think this belongs. Because we have a lot of issues of not changing your bill number, not putting proper identification for where a check should be posted. We have a lot of searching to do through Munis system, trying to figure out, are they paying an excise tax, a utility bill, a tax bill? Obviously, tax bills, they kind of jump out at you, the volume of the dollar-wise, but so it puts a burden on 2 or 3 people in my office in the morning trying to go through those. At heavy times, it's loaded with them. I think the highest we had in one day was 83 on just the checks only. So it's time consuming, and they have to be done by 1:45 in order to have them turned over to you for the following day.
So, and I know we had discussion when we were talking about having that service provided. Has that cut down on your office
It has
work?
cut down on some of the work that's coming in through the mail. It doesn't stop the window at all. They still have a lot of residents. We take in a lot of dollars.
I have to say my household, and we wait for the last day to
We
make
have
sure
a
it
lot of
stays in
people
our
that like
savings
to,
account.
yeah, we have a lot of people that like to wait. Usually when tax bills go out, it starts right away. It just gets heavier and heavier. Excise tax does the same type of thing, but it usually waits till the very last day, and sometimes the last week can be heavy, but usually the last day or the day before is very heavy.
And that kind of goes into, I know most of us sitting here, we talk about the excise tax, the interaction between you and the assessor's office. So you're actually sending the bills and doing the payment processing that they're generating, or you're generating?
We do not generate the bills for excise tax. Those are generated by Kelly and Ryan, the deputy collector. They provide that service for us. They print all those bills and mail them for us, and we're only charged the postage to mail them, which is a good business in my eyes. And then when the demands go out because they haven't been paid again, they do not charge us to print those bills. They only charge us for the postage on those bills. Once they hit warrant, then they're entitled to collect the fees that the state law says that they're allowed to collect, and they can no longer be paid here. They have to be paid at the deputy collectors. So I think we're benefiting greatly from Kelly and Ryan for those services. The bills go out and they come in. We have people that come in and have a lot of issues, and in turn, we do turn around and send people over to the assessor's office immediately because they have issues with the vehicle, they want abatements, they don't want to pay the bill, a lot of different issues that they get straightened out on their office because that's what they do over there. And then they can either come back to me or they don't have to come back to me if it's been abated in full. So we do work in tandem together, and it's very busy between both offices, especially for the first commitment of the year. Very busy.
And that's not the only office that you have the interaction with?
No, I have an interaction with the treasurer's office, a great interaction with the treasurer's office because of tax title. Tax title this year, we had, when we started off with the demands for real estate, which gets sent out around the end of May, which I'm getting ready to do again, for just real estate was 1,119 bills that did not get paid. I sent out a letter, and by the time the second letter went out after the demand bill, we sent out 431 letters telling people they still hadn't paid. We then sent out a second letter that said, we're going to advertise you in the newspaper if you don't pay, and we sent out 257. So we lost quite a few people between the first letter and the second letter, so it does help. Then I advertised, and I had to advertise for 127 people in the newspaper. By the time I turned it over to the treasurer's office, they only had 94 accounts. Granted, I can't take all the credit because the people have to come in and pay the bills, but we do as much as we possibly can to try to make sure that these people are aware that this is going to go out and there's extra fees. It's enough to pay your taxes not to have to pay the extra fees if you can try to avoid those issues. So I try to work closely with Terry in the office for trying to make sure that, you know, we get as much as we possibly can get done up and given to her, because it's a lot of work for her too. She has a lot of stuff to do by law for her tax title accounts. I also work with the accounting office because the accounting office has to get a weekly turnover from me from all the monies that I do collect downstairs, so I can provide them with stuff so we can balance the general ledger to the collector's books that I keep downstairs to make sure that all our money is balanced out according to the law for receipts, as well as each individual account, meaning water, sewer, rubbish, but we have a lot of them. It's not just individual, it's all by year. So it's a lot of bookkeeping and a lot of records. And I do turn over my monies to the treasurer for both Bristol County Savings Bank, Unibank, and Kelly and Ryan every week, so that you get 3 turnovers. Doesn't count all the people that you have to do the reversals on when your Unibank payments don't go through, because I've given her money that I really didn't collect. It's different than a regular Bank of America, not Bank of America, Bristol County Savings Bank.
You have more departments though, right? You mentioned water, wastewater.
Oh yeah, I deal with water and wastewater, yes, because the water department provides me with the files on a daily basis for finals and intermediates. Those are people that are, the finals are obviously final water bills for homes, for people that are trying to sell their home. And they have to have a final water reading so that the next person is not liable for their bills and they get to pay it off. And the house is free and clear of any debt that it's owed by the house. Yeah, because the numbers belong to the house, not the person.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's the person's responsibility to pay. But the water department does those finals and intermediates, and the intermediates also include all those fat soil and grease bills and all those other little funky bills that are out there, fog, plus other ones that they do. Those are mailed daily. Then I have the same month that tax bills go out, I have the biggest water district, which is over 3,000 bills. Then the following month I have 2 water districts, one every other week. The next month I have 2 water districts, one every other week, and at the end of the month the tax bills start again. And then it goes back to the biggest district, and it keeps going like that in a sequential order on a regular basis constantly. We have at least, estimating, because it's different every time you do it, because whether you've had new properties added or not, we have at least 3,000, I'll say, water accounts for every district that we send out in the mail. It's that close. Some are like 2,700, some are 2,800. So it's close enough to say approximately 3,000 for every water district that goes out on a quarterly basis. Over a 3-month period, I have 5 districts, as well as tax bills and any motor vehicle excise bills that must be sent out, because there's more than one commitment. I'm doing demands on the 2nd commitment now. The 3rd commitment is due to come out any day. The water department provides me with all that information. I get the file over here. I bring the file in. I turn it over to MIS, who then turn around and take the file and put it through a postal data software so that the city can obtain bulk mail rates at the post office. You need to do that so that it gives you the proper address, and they will not give you, I also get a discount. It isn't much, but $20 is $20 from the post office because of the work that we do for separating the mail and the trays, what they call intelligent mail. Separate the mail the way that they want it, bring it the way that they need the mail. They're happy, I'm happy, we get a discount. Not a bad deal.
Okay, thank you, and I just want to, because, and as we go through your budget, and as I said before you had come in too, is we're talking about requested budget, and the budget will be coming down confirmed the 31st. So if we need to call any departments back in, we're looking at 6th, not the 6th, the 13th, 16th, that day, just to let you know.
16th of June.
June, correct. Just to give you a heads up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, because we know this is the requested budget.
Correct.
Okay, and we will open up questions. Julie?
I'm going to defer because I think Mr. Conti
Oh,
had a
okay,
question before I did.
My question was, you explained the water department billing quite well. Kelly and Ryan mails out the motor vehicle excise bills. Do you or does Kelly and Ryan mail out the real estate tax bills?
I mail out real estate tax bills and utility bills, and personal property tax bills.
Have you looked to Kelly and Ryan to do the water department billing?
Have I looked at them to do that service? I have not looked at anyone to do the service for the fact that we have all of the paper here that I have ordered in my budget in order to print the bills. And the city paid a lot of money to have Munis come in and set us up, since I've been here, on their system. We used to have COBOL, and upstairs only ran on Munis.
Stop right there. Does Kelly and Ryan communicate with Munis? Yes, they do.
Do they communicate with Munis?
Yes,
they don't bridge anything to Munis.
You can do a data dump to Kelly and Ryan on Munis.
Yes, we do the data dump from our software to Kelly and Ryan, yes.
So you could do the water department billing at Kelly and Ryan.
Correct.
Thank
But
you.
the city did spend a lot of money on having somebody create the format for our bills.
Which Kelly and Ryan could use.
I don't know if they could. That came from Tyler Forms, was as part of Munis. I wouldn't be the expert to answer that question.
Thank you.
I think that's a good question that maybe follow up on too, going forward, Mr. Conti. Julie?
Yes, yeah, and I think that's one of the things too, is people are going to throw out these solutions, which is great, so, and I always say, you should always look at a good solution. People always say, oh, we tried that before, but you know what? You know, new people, new times, new information systems and so forth, so it's always worth it.
I think that if you did something like that, it might be all right to do your tax bills and your water bills, but I'm still going to be printing finals and intermediates every single day.
I just had a couple of things. So it looks like you went up in your recordings. Can you just explain were there more recordings that need to be done?
On the budget?
Correct. 31.3%.
So just so we know where that 31% came from, that is the difference between the requested and the revised. So Deb was originally given $11,000 in the 2016 budget. There was a revision to that, so you must have had to have transferred some money out to go somewhere else. My guess is maybe advertising. Yeah.
So that was my next question. So I noticed there's probably an offset in some of the other ones. It may be the offset between two of those, printing and advertising.
Yep, it went to printing and advertising.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, that's what I was gonna ask for the advertising, because back in the 2015, it's the 12,000, and then it had decreased, and then I do remember a transfer, so.
Yep.
Okay, so do you think the advertising, well, and we'll know, like I said, if we have to call you back,
I won't know what it's going to cost you for advertising until 2 weeks before I do the taking. The taking is done on the first Wednesday of November every single year. And 2 weeks before that, I am required by law to advertise it in the newspaper, and not any sooner or any later.
and you're being conservative with that number. Highly conservative.
Yes, because
Obviously, we had to do a transfer.
I did. I had to do a transfer, and luckily I could get it from recordings. And I need to get that money and pay for the advertising, where the recordings are done because I have, let's see, that's done the end of October, and the taking's not done till November. I have time, I have 60 days to get the money that I need for recording the actual instrument of takings at the Registry of Deeds. So if I had to go back and get money, I would have enough time to get that. Fortunately, I've been lucky enough that I've got my numbers down enough that I haven't had to go ask for more money, even though I borrowed it from another account in order to take care of the advertising, which is still the tax title.
Right, so it
it's within
wasn't
the budget
taken
lines.
more money, it was from in your department, so it was the
Correct.
transfer, so it wasn't like from a general fund, so at least you had the money there to transfer.
Right.
Okay, the postage, I don't think the average person would realize how much postage costs.
It cost over $5,000 to send out the tax bills.
We're looking at $63,000.
Would you like me to tell you how much it cost for the mailing of the first commitment for Kelly and Ryan?
Tell us.
Over $18,000.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for being so knowledgeable. Questions?
Thank you for coming in. You've seen me do this to the other department heads. For the last 4 years, when I was able to ask you questions, you had a requested budget, and then we had a budget. So I could kind of compare them. We don't really have that opportunity this year, so we kind of have to imagine together. So just your two main line items, they actually seem amazingly reasonable. You have one 4% increase, one 4% decrease, so they seem pretty level funded. But let's just say for personnel services, we receive a budget from the mayor that was greatly decreasing or greatly increasing the number of $339,000. How would either of those affect the way you run your office?
If you decreased the salaries, I think I would have difficulty in being able to maintain the level of service that we provide at the window. And it may, if I try to keep the window up, it may put a backlog on the work that's in the office and not be able to get done as efficiently as it has been. On the purchase of services.
Now, what if you had an increase?
Oh, what if I had an
If
increase?
you had an increase, would you be able, if you hired an extra person to help out, would that increase
Might be able,
efficiency?
the increase might be able to help me get some of the work done that I've been trying to get done for a long period of time, and you just start it, you get a little, your toes in it a little bit, and you pull back, and you go back into it again when you can, and you just can't really seem to get it fully accomplished.
Okay.
Those type of jobs.
Thank you. Yeah, and then please do the same thing for purchase services.
Purchases, excuse me. It's really difficult to cut in purchase of services anywhere, because if you cut postage, I'm on the borderline right now for knowing whether I can't tell you if I'm gonna make it to the end of the year yet. I might have to do a transfer from one of my other lines to cover what I'm gonna need, because I don't know how many's coming from Kelly and Ryan. Borderline as to whether I'm gonna have enough money to make it to pay, because I have to pay for the fiscal 17 tax bills in fiscal 16. This goes on year after year after year, because they go out at the end of June. So it's still paying for 4 tax bills, I'm just paying for 3 in fiscal 16 and 1 in 17. So I'm borderline as to whether I'm not gonna be able to afford that. What happens is a lot of people that, and I can't tell you how many because I would never be able to guess, some people get their tax bills for the 3rd quarter and they pay both. But when the 1st quarter comes out, I might get some people that'll pay the 2nd quarter, but my cost changes as to how many tax bills I had over the prior year, because you have new people with new houses and I don't know how many they're gonna be. So it fluctuates. So my 1st quarter this year is obviously gonna be much higher than it was last year, because of new homes being on the books and new tax bills going out. So to cut the funding for postage when I'm borderline right now is tough. And the printing and reproduction, I don't order every single piece of paper that I use in my office every single year. This year, you were kind enough to give me $2,900 so that I could order the envelopes to put in the residents' envelopes so they could mail all their bills to Boston. The bill paper, and the envelopes were what I ordered, 180,000 of each, other than the 2,900 you gave me for the extra envelopes. Paper is a commodity, and I never know what it's gonna cost. This year, I'm probably gonna have to order more demand paper. Not that we use a lot of it, and I try to keep my paper low so we don't have a lot of stock laying around. It's not good for paper to keep it laying around. It doesn't like the machines if you do that. MLC paper. The MLCs, which are your municipal lien certificates, they're outrageous how many we do. And in order to make sure that the work is correct, rather than using the paper that I have a legal seal of the city seal in the middle of the paper, I have them printed on plain white paper first so that somebody else can look at it to make sure all the proper information is on there and there's no mistakes. And then they will copy it to the legal paper so that I'm not printing on that and then throwing it in the trash because there's a mistake on it. So I try to conserve as much as possible, but at some point I'm gonna have to order more of this. And I don't know what the paper commodity is gonna be. So if you're cutting my budget there, I don't know if I'll be able to order all the stuff that I need in order to be able to do my job.
So in the inverse, say the mayor doesn't cut it, say the mayor would give you more, I would assume you'd be very receptive to that and appreciative.
And make sure that, yes, and make sure that I get what I need so that we can at least be comfortable. And it's not like we throw it away, it gets used the next year. So I try to be as conservative as I can and try to make sure that we don't have any printing errors, that I'm gonna have to print something and there's something wrong and I've gotta print it again, because waste is just not good. But you can't always predict what's gonna happen with machines.
Thank you for answering my questions, because if I don't know whether you're going to get cut or increased, I kind of want to know what your response is to either one, so that when I figure it out, I go, all right, well, in collections, this is good or bad. So thank you for answering my
Okay,
questions.
great. Julie?
Yeah. Is there any, I hate to use the word I'm not going to use, is there any place within your budget, offsetting, if you would, if you did get yourself, or did come down to where you had to pay this postage, do you have any idea of where you would look at maybe to offset, or a particular account where you're saying, geez, I hope this one stays this way, then I mean, you obviously, I can tell your mind is thinking already about doing that. Do you feel, so I'm going to ask you the overall question, do you feel you'd be okay?
I think I'm gonna be okay. I think I have enough money within my budget lines left that I can move the money into my line to make sure I have enough postage.
And I appreciate that kind of thinking. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Did you have a question or no?
The only, no, I just have a comment.
No, do you have a question
No, I don't have a
for the
question.
department head?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for our department head? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. And I'd like to call an adjournment for the budget and appropriations at 7.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I have motions for budget cuts.
Say that whole thing again.
So I've- Which is